Hello everyone and welcome to this lecture. We're going to talk about the Greek theatre structure today. So last week we spoke a little bit about why we create performances for our audience, and we talked about plotline and storyline and messages and morals, and so this is a continuation of that. So we're going to look at the Greek theatre structure and how we can use this in our performances to get our message across. So firstly, I'd like to make sure that you have a piece of paper or pen or your laptop next to you so you can take notes. And if you don't have that, stop, pause this video, go and get it, and then come back. So we'll get started. So first, let's just do a little bit of a recap. So we have the story of Greek theatre. So Greek theatre has two types of stories. We have comedy and we have tragedy. So comedy is where there's a happy ending. It's quite funny. We're using slapstick humour. And then we have tragedy. And tragedy usually means that there's a death of the main character, or something definitely doesn't go the way the main character wants it to go. And then moving on from that, we have our introduction, our conflict, and then we also have our resolution and our conclusion. So we'll keep going on. So in our Greek theatre structure, the first thing that we have is our prologue. So I'd like you to write down where you think you've heard the word prologue before. Okay, so what is a prologue? So a prologue is a part that comes at the beginning of a play or story or a long poem, and often gives information about the events that happened before the time when the play, story or poem begins. That's from the Cambridge Dictionary. So when we start making our story, we have to think about where are we, who are we, what does the audience need to know before the performance begins. So for instance, if we're in the future or if we're in the past, we have to let the audience know that that's where we're setting our story. So that when we start, the audience already understands what's going on and what's happening. Next is what we call the parados. So the parados comes straight after the prologue, and this is a song that is sung by the chorus as they enter into the orchestra section. So if you remember the outline of the amphitheatre, the orchestra section is the round bit that we see in the middle, just before the audience, and then we have the scene behind the orchestra. And this song is usually accompanied by a dance. So this just means that we're getting all those people, 50, 60 people, onto the stage, right? For your plays, it won't be that much. It'll only be 12 or 13 people that we're going to try and get on. So next, after the parados, we have the episode. So episodes are like scenes. And by that, I mean that what happens in a scene is that at the beginning of the scene, all the way to the end of the scene, something has to change. Whether it be character development or storyline development, something has to change within that scene. So I'd like you to think about what else do we need in order for something to be a scene, or what we call an episode in Greek theatre? What elements do we need to include? I'd like you to write them down and we'll come back to them in class. So after the episode, we have something called the stasimon. And the stasimon is when the chorus comments on what has happened in the episode through either poetry, song, dance, spoken word. It really depends on what the chorus chooses to do. Now, the chorus takes on the perspective of either what we call the gods, those are the Greek gods, or they take on the perspective of the audience. So, for instance, in Australia, we know that capital punishment is illegal. So we can't kill someone because they've done something wrong. In other countries, however, like America, it is perfectly legal in some states for that to happen. Now, depending on where you're setting your performance, you may need to let the audience know whether it's okay or not okay for things like that to happen. So you have to take these into consideration when creating your stasimon. So you can either choose to take the perspective of the gods, or you can take the perspective of the audience. It's up to you. So we'll just come back to that in a second. So what we're going to go is we're going to go through the prologue. So the structure, sorry. So the structure goes prologue, parados, right? And we've talked about the episode and the stasimon. And so now what happens is these two ideas repeat. So now you have another episode, another Stazimon, and another episode. So you've got your scene episode, then you've got your commentary on what's happened in the scene, then you've got another episode, scene, and what's happened, so the Stazimons, what's happened and a commentary on it, and then you've got another episode after that. Now in Greek theatre times, they could have had up to 6 or 7 episodes and Stazimons when the performances went for there was one performance that went on for 6 hours, so that's a massive amount of time. We're not going to do that. So we're only going to do 3 or 4 episodes. So it goes episode, Stazimon, and then when you have your last episode, we're going to move on to what we call the Exodus. So the Exodus, so if we break it up into parts, exodos, so exit in English, so think about how that might have translated as time's gone on. So we have the Exodus, so the exit, the ending of the performance. So this is where the chorus exits the play and exits the orchestra. So while they're exiting, what they're doing is they're summarizing what happened in the play. And the chorus is also stating the message and moral that they want the audience to take away with them as they leave the amphitheater. So for your task, what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to write down a message that you would like the audience to take away with them at the end of your performance. Now this could be a moral that everyone knows. You know, whatever that may be kind to one another, don't take things for granted, right? Or it could be a very specific message that you want them to take away. It could be, you know, don't always believe everything you see on the internet, or it could be, you know, self-esteem, or, you know, it could be about feminism. You could choose what you would like to talk about. And I want you to be really specific about what you want them to take away from your performance. Now, next week, we're going to come together and we're going to organize in our groups and we're going to share our morals. And then in your group, we're going to pick one of those morals. So as a group, you're going to vote on which moral that you would like to show into your audience. And then we're going to build on that moral and we're then going to create our performance from that moral. So please make sure you bring it to the next lesson. So I hope this all made sense. Please make sure that you've written down any questions that you have and we'll be able to discuss that and go through in class. Thank you very much for taking the time out to listen and we'll see you in class.